Hi, Nate Webb from SeattleDUIPros.com. Just going to talk about the DOL process, or Department of Licensing process, in the context of a DUI arrest. So the Department of Licensing has afforded you the opportunity to have a hearing to challenge any suspension of your license, and you have 20 days from the date of the arrest, or 20 days from the date of notice of suspension if you had a blood draw. And so in a blood draw case, with a marijuana case, or a DUI where there's a refusal or some reason he couldn't take a breath test and a blood draw was taken, then once the blood is returned and it is over one of the limits, 5.00 nanograms per milliliter for THC or marijuana cases, or over 0.08 for alcohol cases, then once you be given notice of that, you have 20 days from that date to request a hearing with the Department of Licensing. And that's a telephonic hearing. It takes place right here in my office. I handle that for every client. And what has to happen in that hearing is that the DOL has to establish by what we call preponderance of the evidence, meaning is it more likely than not, or is it 50.1% true, that there are 4 elements that can be satisfied. One, was there a reasonable suspicion to believe that the officer had you at DUI? Was there suspicion on their part that you were driving under the influence? Also, were you lawfully arrested? That goes to probable cause and jurisdiction issues. And then also whether or not you read your implied consent warnings, the warnings that tell you what would happen to your driver's license if you did not take a breath test, or if you did and you're over the legal limit of 0.08 or 5 nanograms. And then finally, whether or not there was a breath test administered or there was a refusal, and whether that was done appropriately, or in a case of a blood draw, if that was done appropriately under the protocols and procedures. And so that's what they have to establish by a preponderance of the evidence. So it's not a very difficult thing for them to do, because it's a civil standard or administrative standard. And the license sanctions that you face if you do lose on a breath test case, no matter the breath test, as long as you took one on first offense, it's 90-day suspension. If you did not take a breath test or blood draw and you refused, then it's at least a 1-year suspension. So it is also something that you also want to request. It's important. A lot of attorneys I hear will talk people out of doing it, and that way they can say they have a better return on their DOL cases. Well, they're just not fighting for their clients. What you want to do is ask for that hearing, because on a rare occasion, it happens for a few clients a year, there'll be a response from the Department of Licensing stating that the officer did not submit a sworn report, and then they're given their license back with no suspension, and their money back too. And so you never have that opportunity unless you ask for a hearing in the first place. And so to those clients, those people might have, where they're talking out of asking for a hearing, I think they're doing a huge disservice. So it's a telephonic hearing. You can subpoena the officer or trooper to appear. You can appear yourself and give testimony as well. And so you can present documents and evidence, things of that nature. But it's kind of more of a lax, less than formal hearing as you would have in court. But it's always worth it. It does cost now $375 to ask for a hearing, but it's always worth it because, again, you won't have any chance of keeping your license if you don't ask for a hearing. I always tell my clients you have 0% chance if you don't request a hearing. At least you have a chance if you do. And so I've done hundreds upon hundreds of these types of hearings, and very skilled and understand every defense that there is with respect to keeping your driver's license. So that's just a little bit from me, Seattle DUI Pros, Nate Webb, on Department of Licensing hearings. Please call us if you have any questions, or if you've been charged with DUI, 425-398-4323.